young researchers perhaps interested in clinical research. Clinical, the term clinical refers to anything related to human beings. Research involving human beings, clinical research. Whether it involves the whole human being or part of human being, materials derived from human being, blood, tissues, human mind. So whenever you are interacting with human beings for research purpose, any research project, that becomes your field. This is possibly the simplest way to define what clinical research is. It is all the more pertinent to also mention that whenever you are dealing with human beings, you being the researcher, you are a human being, and you are using another human being for the purpose of your research, perhaps using him as your research tool, if I am permitted to say so, then there is a huge amount of ethics and morality involved. So we should be extra careful. This is definitely a sensitive issue. And although today's short program, maybe 2.5 hours, it's too optimistic to deliberate on all the nitty-gritties of this huge topic, good clinical practice. Again, when you talk of good clinical practice, it is not just clinical care practice. It is different from that. It is actually good clinical research practice. When you talk of good clinical practice, it is good clinical research practice. So we'll discuss some of the issues of good clinical research practice, but the focus of the discussion would be on the ethical issues, the ethics involved. We also know that when we talk of drug research, any medicine that we get in the market, any medicine that my doctor prescribes, when I am consuming it, I am assured of the benefit that I may get from the medicine. I am assured that yes, the medicine can cause some harm, but that harm will be within acceptable limit. And how I have been assured about that? Because that medicine has gone through series of research, sequential steps of research, and then only it has been permitted to come in the market. And all this is regulated by the country's government. So for each and every drug that comes in the market finally has to pass through a very rigid and stringent and arduous path of research and sequential steps of research. So that is regulatory pharmaceutical research. But then there could also be, and definitely because ultimately you are going to use the medicine in human beings for the purpose of treating this disease. So it has to be also tested before it can be allowed to be used in routine care in patients. It has to be tested in human beings. So that's what is called clinical trials, pre-marketing clinical trials, and that also occur in phases. Phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, phase 3 trial. These are the 3 minimum steps or phases of clinical trials where human beings are involved. The phase 1, not patients, healthy volunteers, in order to be ensure that yes, it is safe enough to be tested for whether it has any benefit or not, whether it would be effective in a particular disease to alleviate symptoms, or to cure the disease, or to prevent the disease, or to prevent death. So these are the purposes which are kept in the focus while such research takes place, research is planned, research is executed. So regulatory clinical trials. But when we talk of clinical research, it's a much more embracing term which encompasses definitely clinical trials, whether it is regulatory or non-regulatory. There is also a scope of non-regulatory clinical trials. But then, beyond clinical trials also, there are other types of clinical research. Clinical trials are purpose is to compare the new investigational product, which is not yet called a drug, it's an investigational drug, to compare it with the existing drug, or to compare it with, so to say, no treatment, what is called a placebo. Another drug which will look like this, which is not really having any pharmacological property, but it looks, it smells, it tastes similar. In order to avoid any possibility of bias to pupil to interpret the results. So that's why placebo may be used, but again there is a huge ethical issue because the patient who is receiving placebo, whether he knows that he can receive placebo, all these issues. Particularly if he is a patient. You are using a patient and you are using placebo. So there is a huge ethical dilemma of using placebo. All these we will be discussing. But then when you talk of good clinical research practice, although most of the guidelines is more emphasizing on ethical conduct of clinical trials, but for all practical purposes, so because we are addressing a gathering like this, we will be concentrating on, we will try to also focus on the non-trial clinical research, non-drug trial clinical research, the kind of research that perhaps you are more engaged in. A futuristic application might be possible. Maybe some of the pre-clinical research which is being tested here, and then it will be going to the hardcore regulatory clinical trials. But then there could also be possibility of non-interventional kind of clinical research, observational kind of clinical research. So all these we will be discussing, we will try to cover as far as possible. But then we will also like to be interrupted and get engaged in the interactions, discussions. We would really love if it is, instead of a monologue, it becomes a dialogue. In these few words, and it is really challenging, it's a unique experience addressing this kind of a gathering. The best of the best talents of the country assembled here in this unique institution, and I think my colleague will also agree with me that we feel privileged and proud to be here today with you. Thank you very much. The planning for today's program is, I don't know whether it will be possible in this time frame, but we have at least planned 5 presentations. And these 5 presentations, the first one will be by my colleague, Dr. Chiranjeev Bagchi. He will start with some introductory, introducing us with the concept of GCP, Good Clinical Research Practice, or Good Clinical Practice, and how it evolved as of today. And then I will be discussing some of the broader issues of clinical research. And then there is a presentation on ethical issues of clinical research. There is another presentation of stakeholders in clinical research. The department that is hosting this is sponsored research unit. So sponsor research which is being sponsored. Who is a sponsor? So we try to also understand the responsibilities of the sponsor when an agency or an individual is actually providing the logistic support for research. So what could be their motive? Why they are doing this? It is a huge continuum. On one hand, there is no commercial motive. On the other hand, there is public interest. So it varies from that. If you think of a government sponsorship, it is mostly public good interest. On the other hand, if you think of pharmaceutical research, pharmaceutical industry as the sponsor, yes, there is a commercial interest there. So wherever there is commercial interest, there is a more of ethical dilemma. So we have to also handle that properly. So this is one, and finally it is because you will be involving human beings in your research. So there is also a possibility that we should be careful that is there a possibility that the person who is participating is harmed physically, mentally? If he is harmed, could that harm be avoided? Could that harm be minimized? If it is irreversible harm, is there a mechanism inbuilt in order to address that? Is there a scope for compensation? These are the issues. So safety of the research participant. It is so very sensitive. People do not even think of using the term subject, research subject. The moment you talk of what are your research subject, and as if you are at a higher platform, and you are looking down that yes, he is a research subject. So instead the ethos is that instead of calling him research subject, why not call him research participant, because he is participating. You are also a participant, he is also a participant. It's a research activity where he is an equal partner, he is partnering. So these are the issues we try to discuss. With these few words, I welcome Dr. Kiran to come up and start the presentation. Thank you very much.